half of the MSPs will not survive. Now, what separates MSPs that will thrive from those that are headed to extinction? According to industry insider Matt Lee from the episode I did with him on the show, it comes down to how you process information and make decisions inside your business. Today, we are going to be exploring powerful frameworks that could save your MSP.
My mission is to have a self-regulatory organization that says we have to know what we're talking about. That dude had to go to a 6-week course and pass a test to cut my beard. And yet, as an MSP, there is no barrier to entry. So the problem is half of us won't be in the room. There would be a barrier to entry sufficient that the people that cannot operate wouldn't be here doing it.
That's right. Matt believes half the MSPs shouldn't even exist. Strong words, right? But was he wrong? What actually separates the survivors from the extinct? This episode, we are going to find out. Welcome to another episode of the MSP Insider Whiteboard series, and I am Jeffrey Newton. I'm going to take you through unpacking the wisdom from my episode with Matt Lee. We're going to go through a specific decision-making framework that he talked about and dive way deep down into it. And if you stick around till the end, you can have a copy for yourself to actually implement inside your business too. What's the point of it? Too many MSP owners overlook what he was calling the DIKW Pyramid. That's what we're going to be breaking down today. And this isn't just another business acronym. It could be the difference between providing a commodity service or delivering genuine value that clients are willing to pay premium prices for. You can't tell me as an MSP sitting out there that you haven't tried to fix that problem or come up with a solution yourself. Matt laid the groundwork. I'm going to unpack it. You're going to find it all out probably in less than about 20 minutes is where this video will land. So let's just dive straight into the DIKW Pyramid. What this does is it actually represents the progression from raw data to information to knowledge, then to wisdom, right? Each layer of this pyramid, each level is going to represent a different type of value that you can deliver to your clients.
Do you know definitively what your client's data is, where it is, how it works, how it's normalized? Is it sensitive? What systems does it flow through? If you don't know those things, now you're going to add a layer of fuel to the top of that? That sounds smart.
Now, Matt's point is really clear. You can't jump to a higher level of services without understanding the foundation of the pyramid by which it's built upon. We're going to break down how this applies specifically to your MSP business. So let's take a quick look. The pyramid itself, which is one of the assets that you'll actually get at the end of this episode, should you take action, is data, right? Now, when we're talking about data, in the episode, he really broke this down in our world, right? That the base of the pyramid is data. This is just the raw, unprocessed information. Think in terms of the tools that you use in your business, right? So the event logs, the alerts, the endpoint telemetry, the network traffic, the patch status, the asset inventories, like all of that raw, uncategorized data that just sits there, right? Most MSPs are literally drowning in data, but they are starving for insights.
At the very bottom of that pyramid is very less context. There's no complexity. It's just data feeds. It's just my heart rate or my blood pressure or whatever it may be.
So with data, like here's the problem ultimately, right? If we go over here, what's actually happening? Well, most MSPs build their entire service offering around data collection and basic reporting, right? Most might even be an overstatement or understatement because QBRs are still one of the most Google searched term things for the MSP industry, which is where most of that information would be delivered. But that's a different diatribe. What is the lowest form of value in the pyramid? Case in point, really, right? It's like we're struggling to even deliver that information. And that's the lowest level information in value that we could even be delivering to our clients to begin with. So sticking exclusively at the data level actually makes you a commodity provider. What the hell does that mean? You're probably competing on price already, right? And it's frustrating. It's annoying. You don't know how to overcome that and ultimately command the price that you feel that you're worth for the value that you provide, the outcome that you provide. So let's be honest. If all you do is collect data and put out fires, then you are probably one of the MSPs that Matt says shouldn't even be in the room. Now, as we go up the pyramid, right, the next layer is the information level. Information is data with context, and meaning. So this is where you actually start connecting your data points to identify patterns in relationships, things that you're seeing.
Information starts to discern that's a high heart rate, that's a high blood pressure.
So at the information layer, this is actually where we start to see what's actually happening, right? Like, what are the correlated events across multiple systems, or maybe even across multiple client environments? How can we identify potential security incidents across multiple endpoints in maybe even multiple environments? And you track performance trends. Maybe you're just mapping data flows between systems so that you can engineer a better solution or troubleshoot where things are going wrong. I'm sure that you've never gotten that phone call about, hey, the network's running a little bit slow. Or last, documenting relationships between assets, right? Now, here's a key insight. Many MSPs think that they're actually delivering information, but they're just passing along raw data to clients. Go back to my example about struggling to deliver QBRs, right? You really need to understand the difference as you ascend up this triangle, this pyramid, of what is the context, what is the information, what is the value that you're actually communicating. And here's something else that came out of a conversation earlier this week. Communication isn't just about being heard. Communication is about being understood. That's about the other person that you're talking with. So don't take this information that you're needing to relay and treat it like a Vaseline-covered bowling ball and just shove it on your client and expect them to take any sort of value out of that, right?
Yeah, start with an understanding of having a knowledge of what your assets are. And this is going to be carved on my stupid tombstone. What is an asset, right?
Now, Matt's frustration is evident, right? I mean, if you can't even define and categorize assets properly, then you're still stuck at the data level. Information requires context. And context requires proper documentation and classification. And trust me, I was an MSP for 18 years, 5 different companies, 7 different times, and this was critical. I don't even know that any of them ever overly excelled at pulling that off. And I know that it's one of the Achilles heels in the industry. So now let's zoom in to the third level, right? It's knowledge. What is knowledge? Knowledge is where information actually meets the experience that you have. This is where your MSP actually starts to deliver real business value. So stop and think about that for a second. We're 3 levels up on this pyramid, but this is where we actually start delivering value for the first time. Like, that should be setting off alarms if you're stuck down here as an MSP, which is ultimately one of the things that Matt was trying to get across in the episode.
Knowledge combines those and starts saying, hey, you probably are going through some type of an event where you need to lay off the red meat, homie.
So with knowledge, like, let's just zoom back in here. Keep it a little more clear, right? What is knowledge and what does it mean? This is where you're going to do things like interpreting information for business impact, right? It's not just about the bits and the bytes and the ones and the zeros and the you have this minis or any of that. You need to start applying industry expertise to client situations and work them towards an outcome that they actually desire for their business. You can identify potential risks, maybe even before they materialize if you're lucky. You can understand root causes and prevent issues in the future, not just understanding the symptoms and tracking them in your ticketing system. And you can provide contextualized recommendations to your clients. This is where your experience as an MSP creates differentiation. You're not just reporting what happened, you're actually explaining why does it even matter. Now, once you're operating at the knowledge level, this actually connects to one of the other elements from the episode, which is a different whiteboard training, which you can find on the channel, of Matt's tool, the framework that he used for the what, the how, the tool, and the proof. And if you haven't watched that video, I encourage you to do so. There's a download just like this one that you can implement in your MSP right away. And Matt's whole point with this framework, the what, the how, the tool, and the proof, is actually to move away from a tool-first mentality into the proof and the value and the outcome that we provide for our customers. When you change the stack, it's not about the tool or the solution or the thing going into place if you cannot operationalize it, period. That's the thing. And then you reverse engineer the timeline and you're like, well, our contract's come up for renewal and this new cool thing came out. We're going to pivot. Great. Like, operationalize the shit out of it first, right? Now, this is exactly where most MSPs fail, right? They rush to implement new tools without really even understanding the what and the how first. Knowledge means we understand the business need before we actually select the technology that we're going to deploy, which then takes us to the last level, the highest level, which is wisdom, the most valuable level. At the peak of our pyramid is wisdom, applied knowledge with judgment and foresight. So when we take a look at what does that mean and how can we recognize it, what we're really talking about here is strategic business guidance, right? Proactive risk management and risk conversations. business impact analysis, and where are we going and how are we going to get there? Long-term technology planning, some people call it road mapping, or strategic investment advice, right? Like, where is the right place to deploy the capital for that business, for your customer, that actually will speed up their ability to get to their priorities, their end goal that they're actually already shooting for, right? How do we accelerate that as their IT partner by deploying their capital in the right way, in an impactful way, delivering value to them? Now, only a small percentage of MSPs actually consistently operate at this level.
But most of you that die in the next 5 years will die because you can't document and you can't prove. It's one of those things where we've said it to as MSPs, as operational leaders for years. If it's not in the ticket notes.
Yeah, didn't happen. Now, Matt's warning is super clear here, right? Wisdom includes looking far ahead, which means documentation, proof, and long-term thinking that we're doing as the valued partner. We're not just placing that obligation on our customer, the end client.
And I think that MSPs that do that should survive, and the ones that do not should not. And I think that attrition is going to come through subrogation and rescission and lawsuits and civil and regulatory challenges.
Now, this is where we actually see the concept playing out of the half of the MSPs shouldn't even be in the room. Those who cannot climb all the way up to the wisdom part of this pyramid, those are the ones who are not going to survive the coming industry shakeout. Now let's break down this principle of garbage in, garbage out, right? That's not new terminology at all. This is a critical principle that we need to understand about how the DIKW pyramid actually plays out, right? Quality at each level of the pyramid depends entirely on the quality of the level below it, right? Think of a sandcastle. You can build that thing up as big as you want, but if the base sucks or it's weak or whatever, it'll only sustain a certain amount before it collapses back down to the same size, right? It's the same concept. If you try to build your sandcastle, build your MSP on top of a shitty foundation, or trying to skip these levels, it's just not going to work.
I think the challenge is, what's the one thing MSPs should look out for? Their own lack of readiness, their own lack of capabilities and drive that are the underpinnings of those basics, and then extending that into hyper-fast mistakes.
Now, this is where Matt actually hits the nail on the head. Think about it. We're talking about the foundation of your pyramid. If your data collection is incomplete, then your information will be flawed. And if your information is flawed, then your knowledge will be incorrect. And if your knowledge is incorrect, then your wisdom is going to be dangerous, right? Even going through that reminds me of if you give a mouse a cookie.
But if you give it trash, it's going to give you bad information. What if I drank a giant cup of coffee and 2 Jolt sodas beforehand? It's very possible this is not a systemic function.
So this principle applies to everything in your MSP, right? Incomplete asset inventory means flawed security recommendations. Poor documentation means the inability to prove compliance. And inconsistent processes means unreliable service delivery. So let's be real. Many MSPs try to deliver wisdom without a solid foundation. That is the recipe for extinction that Matt was talking about. So now let's shift a little bit to what we can actually do about it, right? The implementation strategies. So how do you even apply this DIKW pyramid to transfer your MSP? That's the question. That's why you're still here. Here are 5 actionable takeaways that you can use for your MSP to do better. The first is going to be to audit your current level. Honestly, assess where you are and where most of your services fall on the pyramid. The second is to build from the bottom up. Ensure that data collection is comprehensive before you move up to the next path. The third is to document everything. What you need to be thinking about is creating proof every single day, starting now, that will stand up to the scrutiny years down the road.
Travelers sued a company after 2 years later in 2022 from a 2020 incident, if I remember correctly, and said, hey, you didn't have MFA like you said you did in your application. We want to take the money we paid you back and give you your premiums back as if you never bought this policy. Here's your $4,000. Hand me my $3 million, please.
Like I mentioned earlier, on the fourth one, apply Matt's what, how, tool, proof framework. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's in a previous whiteboard episode. Go watch it and download that asset. Number 5, create client education. Help clients understand the difference between data and wisdom. Show them, allow them to experience it. Once they have, they'll never want anything else. Now remember, this really isn't just about better service delivery. It's actually about the survival of our rapidly changing industry. The DIKW pyramid is more than just a theoretical model. And it's a survival framework that Matt offered for modern MSPs. Just as he warns, half of today's MSPs will not survive the coming industry changes.
I think the challenge is that we're like hapless idiots right now because the market allowed us to be hapless idiots right now. And so going all the way back to Alex's question that triggered this is that the misconception is that you can just continue to be ignorant.
The choice is clear. You either move up the pyramid or you prepare to move out of business. You need to invest in the capabilities, the processes, the people that will allow you to deliver knowledge and wisdom, and not just data and information.
Yeah, start where you are and be honest with yourself. That's all you have to do. Everybody else sucks too. Or just suck a little less.
Just suck a little less than the next guy. That's the recipe for
and
success.
less tomorrow than yesterday is the human goal.
So if you're ready to take action and avoid extinction, I've put together a worksheet that you can use. You'll notice the pyramid is the same, but in this format, it's going to be essentially a checklist that you get to walk down through the whole way. And you can literally figure out, hey, if you use the right color, it'll even look even better, right? You can figure out, where do you land? No, we're here. No, we're here not. And it's in plain English and normal language. And if that isn't good enough for you, then there's an entire guide to walk through it using Matt's brain. Who wouldn't want to use Matt's brain to deploy some shit into your MSP? So it's all right here. Also in this guide, right here, I added the link to the what, the how, the tool, and the proof video. So feel free to click it from this asset if you can't find it on the channel alone. Eventually, then you can create your own your action plan, and everything is right here for you in this guide. And all you have to do to get it is just comment value or look in the show description, the show notes, and you can find the link to download it there. Otherwise, just drop your word value in this chat, and we will DM it straight to you. That's our show for today. Remember, in the words of Matt Lee, just suck a little less tomorrow than you did today. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time on the MSP Insider.